1. I requested and was granted 2 weeks off for a trip to Spain at the end of April. Unfortunately, I ended up going straight from the flight into urgent care with a ruptured appendix. I spent 6 days in a foreign hospital, plus a couple more stressful days trying to rearrange flights and get COVID clearance to return to the US. What a vacation. I hit up my bar manager and let him know the situation before I got back to the US late May 6th. I told him I wanted to try to keep my truncated due to injury schedule, Wednesday, Thursday, last week, already 2 unpaid vacation weeks, and I'd update him Monday after seeing my doc upon arrival and giving myself a chance to actually rest and recover. My doc wasn't thrilled with my condition or the care I received, and I ended up doing more blood work plus another CT because she was concerned about gangrene and a lingering infection due to my physical state. I talked with her late that night, and the labs looked normal, and the fluid she was concerned was an abscess was chalked up to leftover wash from the procedure. All things considered, it was good news. She wouldn't completely rule out a return to work this week, but did say she preferred I take a week to rest. I tried a bit of light work Monday, and it didn't go super well. When I woke up sore Tuesday, I let my manager know I couldn't do Wednesday and Thursday, and proceeded to message every single employee capable of covering my shift. He was cool with it, told me to feel better. I told him I'd check in with him later, but I planned to be ready for this week. I woke up that Thursday to a notification on our scheduling app that my full week of shifts this week were removed. I messaged him right away and asked what was up. He was radio silent, so I messaged him again that night and got nothing. Finally, I called and got to him over the weekend to talk. I was direct that the conversation we were having should have been the first move, not auctioning off my shifts and then blowing me off. We were civil in tone, but I was definitely upfront about my displeasure over losing an entire week and having to essentially hunt him down to even get an explanation. He got defensive, blamed my lack of communication throughout the whole process, something that absolutely isn't true, and I let him know that, but he brushed it off and moved on. He told me he had bent over backwards by allowing me to take a trip in the first place, and then cover the 2 days I couldn't make it. I told him I totally understood. The bar wanted to cover their own ass, but was quick to also point out, one, this was the only time I have ever had to call out on a shift. Typically, I'm on the other end of it, i.e. picking up or rearranging my schedule. 2, it's no different than any other employee calling out sick. 3, I gave advance notice and tried every single available employee in an effort to cover my own shifts. 4, this entire week of shifts he wiped was covered within a matter of hours on Thursday, because we're overstaffed and apparently he just hired another bar member. I didn't bring it up, but this manager is the same asshole who does his schedules weekly and drops them as late as Saturday, so I really didn't have any time for the implication that I was somehow holding the bar hostage. 5, most importantly, if we have a conversation prior to him just deleting shifts, this whole mess doesn't happen. Just take a minimal amount of effort to reach out and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking." Maybe he's dead set on not scheduling me. I can't convince him I'm good to go or whatever, but at least have the decency to talk to me and give me a heads up before literally fucking with my finances. He rattled off some company lines about this not being a punishment and closed with, "If I messed up this one, I guess I'm sorry." Essentially, the whole convo boiled down to, "Fuck you, I'm doing what's easiest for me." Clearly he can, but I think it's certainly a shithead move, and a bunch of hypocritical bullshit from an organization that loves to preach communication as a core value to their staff. This place is searching for their 3rd GM and 3rd AGM in less than a year. The current bar manager is an incompetent bartender that schedules himself behind the bar and plays favorites, particularly with one of the female bartenders. Shocked Pikachu face. This incident is one amongst many that have involved either myself or another coworker whom I respect. The place is a meat grinder, and I've obviously been unhappy there for a while. I'm to the point where I kinda want to go scorched earth. If I'm being honest, I never want to work another shift there again. Maybe that's too petty. And maybe I'm in the wrong for the way I handled the situation, but I don't think that it's a coincidence that nearly all the current staff that would be considered above average at their job are disgruntled to one level or another. In the time there, I've watched an exodus of truly good help walk out the door for reasons that have nothing to do with money or opportunity. All that said, I've started to look elsewhere, and my old bar manager there is absolutely on board with me using him as a reference. He's an all-round great guy who, unfortunately for some of us, moved on to a better position at a new spot. Right now I'm strongly considering jumping into a job that doesn't pay quite as well, but provides stability and peace of mind, and I can move on from that once an opportunity that matches or exceeds my current earnings presents itself. 2. I need some advice about what steps I can take legally. I had been hired at this restaurant and was working as a server for around a month. I really only worked 1 or 2 days a week and picked up some days as this was a part-time position, so combined not more than 3 weeks. This is not my first serving job either, so I know how shitty management can be. When I got hired, I was promised 1 weekday and a Friday, but when I actually started working, the manager started putting me down for weekends. I specifically said no weekends in my interview and told her about it, and she would promise to change things and didn't, but I ignored it since weekends made more money anyways. Most of my coworkers were very friendly and helpful, but also warned me about how tricky and rude the management can be. I was told I can only keep a certain percentage of my tips and the rest goes who knows where. This whole time, I thought it was a tip-out, but I asked the other server there about it and they said it's not a tip-out, but that the owner takes it and uses it to pay for the chefs. I was also told to constantly write down when I come and go and how much I made, which I do at any job anyways, because they frequently short people and say it's an accident. Every time I trained with the manager, she was so condescending and would make indirect comments about me not being fast enough and not doing things right, despite compliments from nearly all my tables as well as other servers about how quick I was picking things up. It was even a struggle for me to get off of training, even though the manager promised me many times that the next shift would be non-training. Everyone got their checks on time except for me, and I wasn't working for around a week later and was asking her during that time when my check would be ready. It took days for her to send the information to the owner because apparently he never got it. I finally got it and the numbers don't quite add up. Another day I worked, I never had any major issues with the tables and got many compliments on my service. Some customers would even leave me thank you notes on my tip receipts. Well, I recently was scheduled to work with another server and as soon as I came in, I started to do server tasks to prepare for the night. The manager comes in and as soon as she sees me, she tells me I have to help the host with their cleaning tasks. I told her I was setting everything up for the night since the other server wasn't there yet. She told me that servers are supposed to help the hosts before they do their tasks, which isn't true. The host that night told me that it wasn't my job to do. And when I was training with other servers, they never did that. I helped him clear a few dishes, and then he came over and saw what she put me up to, and told me not to worry about it. I try to finish my tasks, and she comes in again saying I need to help him, and she says I didn't set up things right, but the only thing that I did wrong was put too much ice water in the tin that we use to keep the condiments cool, even though I've seen other servers set it up the same way. It was like that the whole night. Her just nitpicking me and saying I was doing everything wrong, even though when other servers trained me, they did it that way. Friday, the night starts and I get my first table, which was big. She makes a point to hover over me and interrupt me every time I try to speak to the guests. And when I get more tables, she keeps bothering me and telling me what I'm doing wrong, as I'm doing it in front of guests. Example. One of the guests' wine glasses was empty, but I was walking 2 feet away to get the water pitcher next to the table to fill some of the other guests at the table's water cups. She yells at me and says I should never leave empty glasses on the tables, and I try to explain to her I wasn't leaving, but just getting the pitcher. Another table I definitely messed up on, but only because every time I would talk to them and get them something, she would show up and say, I need to help the other tables first. I am severely ADHD, diagnosed, and meds only do so much, so I would get super confused and end up forgetting to bring that table an appetizer and a refill. I apologized to them multiple times and they said it was okay. When I finally brought them their check, I again apologized for the poor service, and the lady at the table said, It's okay, you're just doing your best, but I see your manager is stressing you out. Don't worry. She still left me a nice tip. The manager made it seem like it was the end of the world and started insulting me and saying that I'm too slow and messing up too many tables. It was just the one. And that I'm flat with customers and I need to smile and engage, even though I do. She then made a comment about my accent, saying it was bothering guests because I seemed cold when I talked to them. Stuff like this went on all night. I ended up pulling her aside and asked her to please be a bit more patient with me because her interrupting me was confusing me and messing up my flow with my tables. I also informed her of my ADHD, and her response was, I don't care. Do things my way or don't work at my restaurant. I told her everyone has a different work style, and it's not reasonable to think people are going to work exactly like you. The other server saw what she was doing the whole time, and pulled her aside to tell her to lay off me because she was the reason I was slowing down. It got busier, and the manager had to take a few tables, which she blamed me for, so I was finally able to work at my own pace and get back on track. She didn't want to help me with bar drinks, and would tell me she'll do it, and purposely didn't to make me look bad with my tables. And when I had problems with the point-of-sale system, the other server had to help me. All my tables afterwards thanked me for my service. I noticed the whole time she would watch me and write things down, and she was on her phone more than usual. Turns out she was taking her time to write out all the things she thought I was doing wrong, and telling the owner so she could get me fired. At the end of the night, she let everyone else leave and then told me she was letting me go because I don't have a personality for this kind of job. I asked her how many customers complained about me, and she said none, and lied and said customers would never complain about a server but just wouldn't come back. I asked how many other employees complained about me, and she said none again, but she said that in her opinion I'm not cut out for it. She also said I was too slow and forgetful and that I don't know how to talk with the customers, and that my accent sounds flat and unfriendly. She said that I can't just be an order taker and need to connect with the guests, which I definitely do. I ended up making the most tips of the night, even though she had to take one of my tables when she was slowing me down. I asked her to at least mail my last check to me, and she said I can come pick it up, which the least she could do is mail it to me. I'm frustrated because I didn't do anything wrong, and I told the other server after I left, and they thought I was kidding. Clearly, she wanted to get rid of me because I told her she was messing me up, and expecting me to do everything exactly her way was just ridiculous. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? And what did you do? Legally, is there anything I can do about the owner keeping a portion of my tips and shorting me on checks as well as firing me, only because I asked her to stop insulting me? 3. Nationwide sit-down restaurant chain in Texas. So I'm in the back chillin', listening to my podcast, while busting up the dishes and trash all shift. Almost done for the night. Already partial shut down the washer and gathering trash for the last load. Server friend comes in with a couple more dishes. I was like, wait, aren't we closed? Aren't all the customers gone? I joked with her about being done, and now she's making me work more. She then tells me that she has a table left that she is clearing now, and they're going to be escorting her to her car because of what happened. Record scratches. What? I wrap my hand towel around my neck for this tea. So back when we were 3 to 4 tables left, she goes to all the tables individually and tells them it's now time to stop serving alcohol because we're closing and need to prepare to clear the building. She then goes back to her table of awesome couple to joke around with them. They ask for another drink and she tells them sorry. They're cool with it. Other 3-top table, male, female, and female, who were already not nice to the server the whole time, overheard the mask, but not her reply. They get belligerent. How dare she talk to them like that? "We're not serving you," type stuff. Manager comes to de-escalate. That's when they throw out the race card. Manager told them he is cashing them out and sending them away. While he's doing that, the most vocal of them decides she wants to fight the server friend, calling her out, saying she better watch her back because they have something for her in their car. Awesome couples stand up to do something if need be, but manager and other servers are able to get them out of the building after they go to the bathroom. Awesome couple are illegally carrying metal slingers. They tell server friend that they are staying until they escort her to her car after she clocks out. So this whole time I'm just chilling in the back with my podcast, murdering grime from dishes and pots. This whole time me, trained for actual combat, never saw it, was a computer guy, but every Marine is a rifleman, and I'm literally the biggest person in the building at 6'4", add extra for boots, 300 plus pounds. I'm the last to know. I'm not shading on it. I like that the staff don't need that and can handle it. It's a different training than I got for sure. Aftermath, they, like children, dumped water glasses all over the table and floor, threw wet napkins around the place. They stuffed huge wet wads of paper towels into the toilets in an obvious attempt to flood us. Manager was right about to call the cops when they seemed to calm down and need to use the bathroom. Everybody on staff plus the awesome couple escorted server friend to her car. A lot of cops were pulling people over tonight. I hope they got pulled over. 4. This happened a few years ago, but the memory will always be fresh. So, I was young at my second serving gig. So while I had some experience under my belt, I was still a little unsure how the industry worked behind the scenes, and my rights and whatnot. I was working at a popular bar in my local hometown, pretty busy most nights, absolutely crazy on weekends. It was 3 stories and was located in an old fire hall. First floor had pool and the bar, second floor was patio and more tables. Third floor was a dance floor. I started off as a shooter girl, floating up and down all 3 floors. They didn't really want to give me an actual section, but eventually I worked my way up, improved myself, and had the main floor almost every weekend, the biggest money-making section. My manager at the time was extremely high-strung, and to be perfectly honest, kind of a bitch. I think she had a lot of personal issues going on at the time, but I never felt compelled to learn what those were just because she was so prickly. You never knew when she'd lose it and start screaming at you. I come from a verbally and physically abusive household, and at this time, I hadn't gone through the therapy I needed, that I have now done, to recover, so at this point in my life, every time someone would raise their voice at me, I'd cry. Honestly, I don't know why. I think somehow in my mind it instinctively meant I would get my ass beat shortly after. So, needless to say, I would avoid direct contact with the manager as much as possible, simply because you never knew what would set her off. And I didn't have time to cry. I had money to make. It was relatively easy to avoid her for the most part, simply because the place was so busy and you often didn't have time to stop and chat with anyone. It didn't bother me though, because I was friends with a lot of my customers and I just really loved serving there. It was kind of like being at a big party with my friends. Things would get pretty rowdy here and there, but bouncers were great at having your back and staying on top of things. It was like the last big day of patio season, so we had specials on buckets and bottles like crazy. That was probably the majority of what everyone was drinking that evening. The routine is to close the patio at 11 and move everyone inside, just so bouncers can keep a better eye on everyone. 3 floors can make that tricky. Of course, as usual, there's a bit of a fight trying to move a bunch of drunk, rowdy young adults inside from their pretty lit-up patio. But I let the bouncers handle the really tough customers and focus on guiding the rest back inside. One group is especially rowdy and starts breaking their beer bottles all over the ground. I'm nearby, escorting another group out through the door, and some of the glass manages to splash and end up in my shoe somehow. Don't ask me how. I sling drinks. I don't study the physics of glass shards. Anyways, I deal with the group I'm escorting, do a quick look over my tables inside, and see if they need anything before I run to the back to clean out my shoe from the bloody painful mess I feel building. I go to the back, and instantly I know it's going to be an issue because I see my manager back there and she is screaming into the phone at someone. She's further back down the hall, near the door that leads to our off-sale. Staff can access it from inside, but customers have to use the outdoor entrance. She's screaming, and from what I could pick up, she was having issues with the billing of some sort for her cable or phone, maybe. Not sure whether she was screaming at her boyfriend or the actual provider, but she was going off. So I tucked myself into a little nook by the coffee machine, where I wouldn't be seen by her, so I could quickly empty the glass out of my shoe, pick whatever I could out of my foot, and keep going before my tables notice I'm missing. I quickly dump out my left shoe, because that's the foot that's literally bleeding, and before I can even start grabbing shards in my foot, Anna, the manager, is off the phone. She spots me, and decides she didn't get to do enough screaming to whoever she was on the phone with. She goes off berating me, asking me where I think I have time to slack off, and who do I think I am because we're packed. I try to interject and explain that I'm taking a minute to get broken glass out of my shoe, and she would interrupt and get increasingly more angry every time I tried to speak. I simply just stood there while she screamed at me for 10 minutes and tried to gesture to my bloody foot, which at this point was literally dripping blood through my pantyhose onto the floor. She kept yelling until she was through the door and went back to the floor. I just stood there defeated for the next minute. I looked at the clock and saw I had an hour left on my shift, and I just walked out. No fucks given. I felt bad for the owner, but this wasn't the first time the manager had treated someone like this. I wasn't about to be her new punching bag. I blocked all the staff that worked there and never heard from them again. Apparently, they're under new management and Crazy Pants moved to BC. I hope for everyone's sake that she's not managing anyone anymore. 5. So my parents own a Chinese restaurant, and today a customer called back because she didn't receive the free condiment that she wanted. Over the phone, she barely gave me any time to respond back to her, and quite rudely said, "I ordered here tonight and I specifically asked for chili oil. You gave me chili paste. Now how will my family eat the food? We don't like chili paste." Apparently it's the end of the world to not have chili oil. To provide a bit of background information, at the restaurant we usually give one small container of homemade chili oil or chili paste as a freebie on the side for customers who request for it. Sometimes we'll give both if the customers ask nicely, or if we know them, example regulars. We also provide free fortune cookies, soy sauce, and plum sauce for every bag, unlike some of the other restaurants around our area. However, during her order, she greedily asked for 5 containers of chili sauce, not oil, to which I responded with, "I can give you a bit more of the chili paste, but I cannot give you more than 1 container." On top of this, she specifically requested for exactly 6 fortune cookies, from ordering 3 dishes and 6 chopsticks. So she comes in at her desired pickup time, which was 7. As she walks in, she doesn't even acknowledge my dad, who greeted her with a "Hi" for pickup. She was too busy talking on her Bluetooth earpiece to respond back. As the staff member proceeded with the transaction, she did not stop her phone call, not even once, and continued to disregard him as he gave her the total. It took us 3 times to get her to pay attention to us. So she paid in cash, and my dad had the receipt printed and the order ready in their hands. "Thank you, have a nice day," my dad and I said in unison. The lady ends up being too focused on her call to look at us. She has forgotten about her order at this point. It took my dad 3 more times to get her attention and to finally take the order and leave. During the callback with this customer, I responded back with, "Ma'am, sometimes we forget to put it in the bag. But anyway, it's free. You still have chili paste. We'll give you a container of chili oil next time." "I know it's free, but you guys always never give us enough chili oil." I finally end the call with, "Okay, but I can't do anything else for you right now. Like I said before, it's a free condiment. When you order next time, request it from the staff member at the till. We only give it when customers ask." "Okay, whatever." So I ended up blocking her number since my dad was done with taking this customer's order. He did not appreciate her attitude, and it seems she always complains about the lack of free condiments she receives. But holy shit, how greedy can you be? At a Chinese restaurant, it has already been a hard 2 years for business due to the pandemic and rise in racist prank calls. Even before the pandemic, our mall plaza was under construction, which left us with a barely visible banner as a sign to indicate where we were located. The restaurant was boxed in by metal poles and heavy outside construction, which left our customers confused on whether we were still in business or not. The construction was finally done in January 2020, and then COVID hit, and now with the rise in prices for not only produce and supplies, but rent as well, the restaurant is trying their best to hang on and stay afloat. My parents have opened for 31 years and worked their butts off. I don't understand how people can be so greedy and inconsiderate. Personally, this has not been the rudest customer I have met, but it sucks knowing that my parents are being treated like this. They both are skilled at dealing with stupid customers like this, but I wish people were more respectful to those working hard in the hospitality industry. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 174. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please give the video a share and a like if you would. It's very, very helpful. Every view counts, and every view is cherished. Okay, let's see. Saturday, isn't it? Well, Saturday when this originally went up, so yes. Okay. Right, no shoutouts today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Okay, what is a song that you enjoy that you used to misunderstand the lyrics of before you learned what they really were? There's so many from me, but I'll name one. One of my favorite songs is A Different Corner by George Michael, because George Michael, I mean, come on. And the line in there goes, "I'd say love was a magical thing." At least that's what I thought it was. What it actually is, "I'd say love was a magical flame." And for years and years, having listened to the song many, many, many times, I thought when he was singing flame, he was actually singing thing. Both work. That's probably why I didn't question it too much, but one day I was just listening and suddenly, oh, okay. It's like the older I get, I suddenly start to... Things click more when I listen to old songs and suddenly realize I was getting little bits and pieces of lyrics wrong that I'd always thought were right. Oh, what the hell, another one. Another is, again, another favorite song of mine called Atlas Hands by Benjamin Francis Leftwich. Right? And for years and years, singing the song out loud happily, I'd sing, "People in their churches started singing above their hands." Although the line is actually, "People in their churches started singing about their hurts." And in context, I thought singing above their hands was basically, kind of raising their hands in praise of Jesus or marshmallows or whatever kind of church it is. The Church of the Infinite Squirrel, whatever it is. But no, singing about their hurts, that makes a little bit more sense, actually. Well. What are yours? Let me know in a comment below. And I promise I won't laugh because I'm obviously just as guilty as you are. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.